3D Lobster Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everyone! In today's video I'm going to be showing you this really cute little lobster design that is a little bit more realistic than yesterday's crab. Yesterday's crab was kind of fun and goofy with googly eyes and the whole thing, but today's it's a lot more realistic. It's just I love this, and you see lobsters kind of on shirts and stuff all over the place right now. So I thought it'd be cute to do. The background I think is gorgeous. It's a nice really blue marble. I hope you like it, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So to start with, I wanted to create a blue marble in the background. This one is similar to yesterday's, but not quite identical. Like I said, these don't completely go together, but they're just kind of complementary. And so for this one, I wanted it lighter. So this has light blue, light aqua, and the same teal glitter. I really love this background. It would be a gorgeous marble accent nail in a set. Like if you were going to do these if you were going to do a lobster nail, please do this marble background on your other nails because it is just so pretty. Every time I do a marble nail, I was like, oh, I just love that. But anyways, if you're doing these as part of a set, please include this it'd make me happy. But then encase the entire nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure that it is nice and strong and that glitter is protected, because glitter, if you file it, does some really funky stuff. But then file your nail into shape. I started out with a coarse bit to make sure that there's no bulk and lumps and bumps and major issues. And after I have it where it's filed into a nice shape, I'm going to perfect it just a little bit more with a much finer bit. This is also going to remove any scratches. Then apply a layer of gel sealer, make sure it's nice and shiny. And when you are sculpting with a very pigmented color like red or black or some green on top of a lighter color like this light marbly blue, your darker color will stay in the color underneath, and instead of having a red section on the nail and a blue section, you're going to have everything that's slightly purple. And now we're going to be sculpting out the lobster. As you're doing this, you can even see it's still a little purple anyway, but you can clean that up with a little bit of monomer in your brush, whereas if that was just on the nail, it'd be attached. But as we are, I'm just going to be sculpting out my lobster. I'm not doing any of the super details. I'm not making sure that the sections of the tail the plates of the tail are individually sculpted at this point. I am just getting the base shape worked out. So I'm not looking at the shape as far as 3D. I'm just looking at it almost like I'm painting it like it's 2D. So I've got his body, his tail, and then the little fans on his tail. And then to make his legs, I just added a section of acrylic down, and then I'm going to, with my brush, sort of pull it apart into the different legs. This is another reason why having the gel sealer on there is going to be a huge benefit, because as you can see, before the acrylic is set, you can just kind of flick it off with your brush. It's transitory. It's not permanent. You can get rid of it very easily, and you can also split it up and bend it and do all of these manipulations that you couldn't do if it was just on the nail before it had the gel sealer on there, just the filed acrylic. That being said, this is not the way I would recommend doing things in all circumstances. If you're doing if you're sculpting flowers on nails, don't put the gel sealer on there because it's going to give you a headache. But depending on the design, depends on whether or not I would say it's beneficial to do. So I know some people ask me, why do you sometimes do it, and why do you sometimes put gel sealer on there, and why do you not always? And sometimes it doesn't matter. And if I'm doing a couple designs on the same day, and I've got them all at the same stage, and I'm putting gel sealer on some of them, I'll do it on the rest just because I'll just get that step out of the way all at once. And so sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it really does make a difference. So yeah. And so then the last two, the ones that have the claws, like this one I wanted it to be pretty big across the nail. So you don't see the entire claw on the one side. You just see the entire claw on the other side. So sculpt out your claw. So there is the first section of the claw, and then you're going to take, or not the first section, but the first claw. And then I'm just going to take, you can see just the very top of the other section, of the other claw. Oh, goodness gracious. Now going back to the first one, I'm going to be adding the other section. So it's got the major part of it and then the little thumb piece. And so now I'm going to take a little bit of red acrylic more and add just a little bit more to his head because I didn't think that was quite right. And then cut 2 pieces of red thread for his antennas. Then with a peachy color of acrylic, I'm going to be attaching those 2 pieces of red thread, just setting them, so place down the little bit of acrylic and then set them in there. If you wanted to use nail glue, that would probably work a little bit better if you like nail glue and you have a good relationship with nail glue. If you don't have a good relationship with nail glue, avoid it at all costs like I do and use acrylic, and it works out just fine. But then add another layer of that peachy color over the rest of the body, and then start working on adding, this is where you add the details to your tail especially. So place down a little bit of that peachy color on the 2 fans of the tail, and then add each section of the tail going up. So add one down and then sort of pat it out almost like you're doing a petal, like a rose petal, and then keep going. The color of peachy acrylic that I have is not super opaque. It's maybe 50% opacity, which makes it beautiful for doing these highlights and things like this. If yours is not that way, you can either use an extra amount of monomer in it to make it less opaque, or you can mix it with some clear acrylic to get this opacity in this style. But you know, it works. If you don't have it that actually is like this, you can still you can make it happen. So I would recommend, probably if you are going to be making these and you don't have a color that's going to add that almost watercolor effect on it, that you would mix a little bit of clear acrylic. So just take a small jar and kind of play around with it, but don't over add the clear. So maybe try like 60%, 40%, or a ratio along those lines, just to see if it'll work, and test it out a couple times just to make sure. But once you start doing these, if you ever sculpt portraits out of acrylic, having these colors that are kind of translucent that you can add these layers to adds so much realism to a portrait. If you are into portraiture or making fairies or anything like that, I would definitely recommend playing around with some of those techniques. Add the same peachy color over the entire lobster, head to toe, claws, tail, whole 9 yards. Make sure though that you are not getting your little pieces of thread stuck in any extra acrylic, just stuck to the head where you initially had attached them. So then, after you have that, I'm going to be adding just a little bit more on his head, just to kind of brighten that area up. And then taking black acrylic paint, I'm going to be adding all of my little details on here. I didn't want to over detail it and add too much, but I did want to make sure that you could tell like the different sections of the legs and down his body and his eyes, and just a little bit on the sections on the tail. Not too much, but just a touch. And then apply a layer of matte top coat over all of that 3D acrylic, again, not on your thread. Then this part's a little bit awkward, but you're going to want to hold your thread taut straight out from his head, and then paint just a little bit of gel sealer on there, so about 1/4 inch, and then cure that. Hold it taut while you are curing it. Then after it's cured, bend the wire back. As you can see, the gel sealer stiffens it so that the little bit that has a gel sealer on it is going to stay forward. So then this part, like I said, we're a little bit awkward here. Hold your little antenna back. So grab them, and you might need to do some maneuvering. And if you had longer pieces of thread than I did, it would probably be easier. But hold your thread back so that they're going towards his tail, and keep them in your fingers. And then paint gel sealer on the rest of the thread going down as far as you can. Don't paint your fingers, but then trim off the extra bits of the thread, and you are all set. So after it's cured, this stiffens your thread so that it goes forward and curves back just like a lobster's antenna would, which is, I think, just a cool touch. So I hope you guys like it, and please share any recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!